This is Midwest Moxie, a show about our region's visionary founders and the experiences that shape them. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher, Executive Director of Five Lakes Institute. Andrew Parkinson had worked on Pringles potato chips, Parquet margarine, Kraft singles, and other brands. He and his brother Thomas had founded 3 companies, including Peapod, the online grocery shopping pioneer that raised $60 million in a 1997 public offering. But Andrew kept coming back to a nagging question. How could he help consumers buy the best food for their health? In 2019, Andrew and Thomas set out to answer that question with Chicago-based Sifter, whose AI-powered platform helps people find groceries that match their diet, lifestyle, and medical needs. Sifter has 17 full-time employees and has raised about $12 million. Andrew, welcome to Midwest Moxie.
Thanks, Kathleen. It's a privilege to be here.
Your first job after college was at Procter & Gamble as a brand assistant. In the files of your predecessors, you found a memo written to upper management by Steve Case, who went on to become CEO of America Online, or AOL. Tell us about that memo.
So, Kathleen, it's actually pretty funny because the guy who took me out to dinner for the recruiting dinner was actually Jeff Immelt, and then who ran GE, as you know. And then when I came to Procter, I got a file full of memos. You know, P&G is famous for their memos because they're very direct and to the point. Anyway, in that file, there were a bunch of memos from Meg Whitman, who went on to found eBay, Scott Cook, Intuit. And then there was one from Steve Case to his boss that basically said he was quitting P&G because they weren't innovative enough for him. And then on that memo, his boss scribbled to the boss's boss, "Who is this guy? Good luck to him." So anyway, Steve obviously left and then went on to found AOL. So good for him.
You know, such a great story of how entrepreneurs move through the world, right?
Yeah. P&G gets a lot of guys because they train you, and they actually don't require an MBA, which a lot of the brand companies do. So you get a lot of guys that maybe have the entrepreneurial itch at a company like that.
After P&G, you moved to Chicago for a job at Kraft Foods, eventually becoming manager of strategy and acquisitions. And for many people, you know, you'd have it made, but not you. You left to join the U.S. board sailing team. You never made it to the Olympics, but you spent 2 years there. And during that time, you began working on the Peapod business plan. What prompted you to start thinking about doing Peapod?
Well, when I was at Procter and at Kraft, I saw a lot of research that basically said people disliked going to the grocery store, shopping for groceries. So while I was training on the windsurfer, I had a lot of spare time in between races. So I did research and I wrote the business plan for Peapod, thinking that if I could get people to stare at a screen to order their groceries, I could then promote products to them at the point of purchase. So solving both the grocery shopping chore as well as trying to tap into the advertising dollars.
So let's be clear. This was before there was such a thing as Microsoft Windows. You were doing this on DOS, right?
Yeah, that's right. We ran on DOS. I think it was a Dell AT or XT computer, and we used Crate and Barrel wine rack for the modems. So it was probably, I think it was 1989 that we launched. So before Windows, before Al Gore invented the internet.
Weren't you worried about, I mean, there weren't that many people using computers at that point, going online, as it were.
Yeah, we were probably a little before our time, but that was really our first company. I didn't really understand how hard it was going to be. So we just went for it.
Wow. You founded Peapod with your brother Thomas, and you and Thomas both have diabetes, and you have irritable bowel syndrome, which makes diet super important to you. How has that influenced you viewing food as medicine and starting these companies?
Yeah, I think that was the initial and personal reason we got interested in what we call food as medicine. We have something called MODY1, which is it's kind of a rare form of diabetes. It stands for maturity onset diabetes of the young. So we have a high A1C, but you can't really control it with insulin or metformin. So you have to really control it with your diet. So watch your carbohydrates and watch your sugars. And that's why both of us, my brother and I, had a high interest in food as medicine. But we also saw through our research how diet was the number one driver of chronic diseases in the US, due to poor nutrition or diets, and that 85% or so of medical costs are driven by chronic diseases. So we saw an opportunity in our new company, Sifter, to help people really improve their health through diet, through food, as well as then to drive down medical costs.
And you were working your way toward that. I mean, with Peapod, you went through a lot of ups and downs. You grew to 24 markets, you went public, you had problems with your CEO that you had hired and resulting issues that forced you to sell a majority stake to Ahold, the Dutch supermarket operator. But the bottom line with Peapod, as you moved through this journey, was that you couldn't recommend products to people. So before Sifter, before your current company, you and Thomas started Item Master, a company that provides ingredient and nutritional product data. Tell us about that in your progression towards Sifter.
And so the frustration we had with Peapod is that we wanted to help people find products that fit their specific dietary preferences. And it could be multiple preferences because like me, you could be, have IBS as well as diabetes and be gluten free. But the product data, what's on the label, really wasn't available in a structured way that made it easy to analyze the product in terms of what diets it would fit. So we started iMaster really with that goal of collecting that label data, structuring it, and then tagging it by all the different chronic diseases, medications, diets, et cetera. And then we syndicated that out to anyone that wanted to build a platform like retailers inside e-commerce to build food as medicine solutions. But what we found is no one was really able to do that, build the functionality. They didn't have the experience we had at building Peapod. So what we eventually did is we sold Item Master to Syndigo, which was a competitor at the time, but now actually a vendor of ours, and started Sifter really with the goal of making healthy eating easy for everyone, but as a platform that would go inside other people's food as medicine platforms.
So, just in terms of this label stuff, and then we'll get to Sifter. When I look at a label in the grocery store, why would I not be able to tell, whether it was good or bad for me? I mean, the ingredients are all there, right?
They are. It's a huge task to go through so many products. So I'll give you an example.
And it's little print.
Yeah, and it's Sifter can read it, or our software and our algorithms can read it in microseconds, thousands of labels, and then provide back to you as a shopper whether it fits or doesn't fit. And if it doesn't fit, we recommend other products in the aisle. So if you go, for instance, into the salad dressing aisle at a Jewel here in Chicago, there might be 380 salad dressings. But if you ask it to filter by diabetes, FODMAP, low FODMAP, and gluten free, it'll come back within seconds and say, there's 8 products here that fit your diet. So
Wow.
that's the convenience we provide, but also the knowledge is built into our algorithms to let you know whether it fits or not. Because it's not always obvious to someone whether there's too much added sugar, too much sodium, or whatever to be healthy for whatever diet they have.
So, who are your customers? Is it individuals or grocery stores?
Well, so we do have a consumer facing app, but we really built that as a demonstration of the power of our what they call APIs or technology that other platforms can put inside their applications to build a successful food as medicine solution. So our clients are really retailers who are putting us inside their e-commerce platforms or their scan and go or their loyalty apps. On the other side are healthcare companies. So for instance, one is called Able, which is an IBS platform. It helps you find products or what you can't eat. And then they use Sifter's technology to point you to products at any grocery store in the US on what products you can eat. And we have one that takes DNA of your hair, and based on your DNA, it recommends what diet you should be on. And then they use Sifter to basically point you to products that fit diet. And then there's the whole healthcare insurance, the payers, the medical providers, the self-insured employers, and then these food as medicine solutions that all can use our technology as kind of the rails to build their own platforms to help people find products that fit.
You have a personal interest in doing what you're doing, and you've obviously built up these business skills over the years. What kind of advice would you give young entrepreneurs?
I guess I think I'd say focus forward and persist, because starting and growing any new business is really hard. Much harder than I thought when we first started Peapod, and it continues to be hard with Sifter. There's inevitable ups and downs to push through as a startup or as an entrepreneur. And you need to learn from your failures and don't dwell on them. I think it's, as they say, fail fast and then move forward. And don't rest on what you did yesterday. Focus on how you're going to innovate and solve real world problems today and going forward.
It's really amazing to think that you started out writing programs on a DOS, and now you're in this very high-tech business still in groceries, right?
Well, I have to thank our whole team. We have a wonderful team at Sifter, and a lot of them came from Peapod or Item Master. So we brought together a skill set that is kind of unique and hard to really find. But it's only with that team that we could make it happen. So it's incredible developers, our chief technology officer, our chief data officer, my brother, who's our product officer, Judy Sable, who's a co-founder, our chief nutrition officer, our chief operating officer came out of Peapod and Item Master. So there's a lot of expertise we're bringing from years and years of kind of hard knocks and experience.
What kind of potential do you see for Sifter?
I think it's just tremendous, but it's almost hard to measure given the magnitude of the problem out there of making healthy eating easy for everyone and, to both improve people's health and drive down medical costs. But there are a lot of potential clients for Sifter, as I mentioned, the retailers, the payers, the providers, and these food as medicine solutions. So, it's a $1 trillion market out there in terms of health and food and everything that we're trying to help with. So I think it's tremendous, but it's obviously going to take a lot of hard work, and we're going to continue to persist.
Well, you've done it before. It's going to be fun to watch you do it again. Thanks so much for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Kathleen.
You can read more about today's guest by visiting wuwm.com. Don't forget, you can listen to the show as a podcast if you'd like to take us on the go. Just search for Midwest Moxie wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher. Midwest Moxie was created by executive producer Audrey Nowakowski and me. Today's episode was produced by Audrey Nowakowski and engineered by WUWM's Jason Reevy. Join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. to hear from more visionary Midwestern founders building innovative companies. That's right here on 89.7, Milwaukee's NPR. Support for Midwest Moxie comes from Microsoft, whose efforts to drive technology development across the Midwest and beyond include its National TechSpark community engagement work, which started in Wisconsin, its role as co-founder of Titletown Tech in Green Bay, and its new AI co-innovation lab at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. More information is available at Microsoft.com. And from Quarles & Brady LLP, a multidisciplinary Am Law 200 firm with approximately 550 attorneys who support large and small businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to startups and entrepreneurs across the country. More at Quarles.com.